Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. Me and Mark are back asking the same question we ask every Monday night. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. We're so fucked for goalkeepers. Mark has got the gloves out the loft, haven't you, mate? You blow the dust off.
I'm off to buy some new boots.
You can't be any worse than Gillespie, mate. But what does Gillespie do except carry waters and sing Ronan Keating songs for his initiation?
I think that is exactly it. I think he is a very well paid water boy at this point, isn't he? Bless him.
Absolutely. I'd love Gillespie's job, to be honest with you, because he just has a little giggle in training, has a little bit of, the drills, has a drink of water, goes to the canteen, has a little bit of something, goes back home, and that's it, really, and just doesn't play, doesn't do anything, mate. So what a job that lad has, to be fair.
Tell you what, if I could get a job as a fourth choice Premier League goalkeeper, I could do a damn good job as a fourth choice Premier League goalkeeper.
Do you know he's a little bit like the inflatable pilot in an airplane, isn't he? Just pops up when you don't need it. He's a little bit like that. But God bless. I'm sure he doesn't watch, but good evening, Mr. Gillespie, if you are watching. But if you do watch, then or if you haven't watched before and you've just checked us out the first time tonight, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you on board. We're over 2,500 subscribers now, so loads of room for you guys. Smash that button as Mark's just popped up there. 2 live shows like this one on Mondays and Wednesdays, and pop-up videos as well with all Newcastle content free of charge. And we're live tonight. Jump in the comments. We have had a few jumping in already. We have got Jack is in the house, and my favourite handle, Old Angry Noob Gamer, which I have to slow down all the time. That's probably why he's done that, just to keep me right. Shez is there. How you doing, mate? Good to see you too, Bonnie lad. And we're going to get stuck into all things Newcastle in a minute. There's already been a couple of comments about some of the crazy things we're going to talk about.
Just before we get started, can I just say thank you to Ian in the chat for putting in got the wrong date, because I am an absolute moron. And I did get my weeks mixed up, and I had tonight's show ready for next week because, I don't know, for some reason I figured it was the 27th today. So thank you for that, Ian. But we may miss out on a few people coming in because I'm an absolute dick.
Possibly. Well, thank you very much, Ian. What can I say? Goalkeepers, man, they just lose their minds, don't they? You know, I'm sure we'll be talking about that in a minute as well, everybody. So let's get stuck in then. I mean, the first topics, mate, we're going to get stuck into these just before we get into the match. A couple of some serious things to really talk about at the game. So obviously pre the game, there was a couple of tributes. The first one, if anyone didn't see this, anybody doesn't know about this, I'm sure everybody does. Was the devastating news that we all woke up to on Saturday that former Newcastle United midfielder Christian Atsu's body was found, and he was one of the latest victims of the horrendous earthquakes in Turkey, not on the Syrian border. So obviously everyone's thoughts on the channel go out to Christian's family, his partner, his kids, who were actually in attendance, Mark, as well at the stadium, which was devastating to see that there was a little tribute wasn't on the screens before the game, just to obviously highlight Christian's passing. And mate, 31 years old, just absolutely tragic, man, isn't it? Horrendous, man.
Oh, completely. I mean, if anybody watching that and the scenes when they cut, obviously cut. I'm always a bit funny about this when they cut the camera to and his kid. I mean, that broke me. To be fair, it was awful, and I mean, Newcastle don't do it all the best, don't they, in terms of celebrating people and stuff. And it was, immaculately done as always. And it's just tragic. And when you think we were talking about him last week having potentially been found, and then it was just, just absolutely heartbreaking.
It is absolutely tragic. This disaster's claimed so many lives, and obviously this one's touched us as Newcastle fans closely, and obviously the world of football. Just about the Liverpool fans, actually, Mark, there has been a little bit of shit thrown their way. I mean, the whole thing with Christian's tribute was supposed to be a minute's silence, turned into a minute's applause, which I've got no problem with. I think that's fine. I think in football games, the minute's silence is very poignant, very very deep, very meaningful. But I think the minute's applause can often mask anyone being a dickhead in the crowd. The Liverpool fans started singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." Now, there's two ways you can look at that.
I think it was a pure tribute from them. That wasn't them taking the piss. That was them.
No,
and they do it a lot. They do it for a lot of things like this, and it becomes their, that anthem of, you won't walk on. It becomes a respectful rather than a tribal thing for them and stuff. So I think when you look at it like that, it wasn't done. I don't think it was done maliciously. It wasn't done to take the piss. It was done purely because of it's that song, and it sort of fits that sort of tribute. And especially if it had been a minute silence, I don't think they would have done it. But I think because it's to applause, then they went ahead and do it. So if you take it the wrong way, yes, I think it looks awful. But if you look at it from the point of view, well, that song is sung many, many times in the same sort of circumstances. Then
for Hillsborough victims as well, isn't it? They use it a lot for Hillsborough victims.
Exactly.
Like so it could have possibly been.
I'm not going to rip them for that.
No, I think you're right, man. I think some people were just maybe the emotions were raw and they took it the wrong way, possibly. Ian doesn't agree with Sky showing his wife and his kids. Yeah, I kind of get that, Ian. It's a little bit unnecessary, It's like when Ericsson.
I was just going to say it just mirrored that. That was
and that was unnecessary, wasn't it?
It was, and TV directors have to do better at that point.
Yeah, you've got to use your brain, man. Use your heart.
I'm sorry, but at that point, she's breaking her heart.
She was.
And that's not something that you want to be broadcast around the world.
No,
and it's that was poor from Sky. It really was. And likewise with UEFA, wasn't it, for the Euros? That was poor.
Very Truman Show, like, wasn't it? Like, what's not off limits here? Let this poor woman grieve. She took her kids to the game so the kids could see what the dad meant to those fans. And for Sky to almost jump on that, I thought was wrong. Yeah, I'm with you, Dave. It really hit me as well, mate, when I saw it. Shaz is saying that at first he was disgusted with Liverpool, but then after hearing, You Never Walk Alone, obviously, he kind of says there they were singing You Never Walk Alone, was seen as support. I kind of see the mix up there, Shaz, and I think it's because I said there the emotions were raw. And I think people didn't quite hone in. I think if they took themselves out of that situation a little bit, maybe if they were home watching it like I was, I think you can maybe see, the Liverpool fans meant that in a good-hearted way. I don't know whether Liverpool actually put any messages out, Mark, did the supporters? Is the trust or anything to say the men?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But I think, you look at it and go, well, I think because that song is sung at every game, there's always the element, well, they're singing it pre-game because it's what they do pre-game. But it was done, it was almost done differently. It wasn't as raucous. Do you know what I mean? It had that respectful kind of tint to it. So fair play to that. And at the end of the day, put rivalries aside and stuff. It's one big football family, isn't it? So
and there's a human being, Mark. It's a human being, man. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly right.
It's not right. And a lot of the guys were saying that they thought it was quite respectful. Obviously Jack saying as well that there was no issues with that. Gamers saying it was came across as a tribute, absolutely as well. I just think that's exactly what they intended it to be, guys. But apologies, Shez, I misread your comment the first time, mate. Just pulled it up there, just almost instinctively. But yeah, it's I don't think there was any malice meant by it, and there was some lovely tributes, obviously for Christian, which was brilliant. And again, as we say, it's so tragic. And thoughts go to his kids and his wife and the rest of his family. It's just absolutely dreadful, as to all the victims of this horrendous natural disaster over in Turkey. There was another tribute as well, which maybe was a little bit more, certainly more expected than the Christian one, because that news was just very sudden and awful, even though people were fearing it. And it was the celebration of one of the best managers we've ever had in Sir Bobby Robson. Bobby 90 has been going. This was to be Bobby Robson's 90th birthday. Obviously on the Saturday that we played Liverpool. If anyone hasn't listened to it, The Athletic did a wonderful podcast, 4-episode podcast led by George Colkin, and it's unplayed tapes of Bobby, Mark. And you know what? It's like you're sitting there in the chair talking to you, man. It's beautiful. It really, really is, And what a fitting tribute that was by War Flags. Absolutely fucking awesome by the guys, man. What a job.
They do it well, don't they? Let's give them all. I mean, we spend half our life on here giving War Flags credit. For
Absolutely, who doesn't?
And they smashed it out of the park again. Look, they are pretty much now the envy of every club in terms of what they put on before games, because there are many clubs that try and emulate what they're doing. Again, absolutely bang on. I have to be honest with you, I haven't listened to that podcast yet. I need that.
Oh,
Has to
mate,
be on the playlist for this week.
Mate, get on it. It's absolutely incredible, man. I was crying my eyes out. Crying my eyes out at one point, man. Just fucking amazing. Just listening to him talk about Newcastle, and I won't spoil it too much, but he talks about taking the players to Beamish at one point, which is just fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, man. What a man. What a man.
It's hard to talk about without getting emotional, isn't it?
Oh, it is, man.
He's such a father figure or like a granddad figure to everybody. It doesn't matter what team you support. It doesn't matter where you come from. What you know him and you love him because he was just a genuinely lovely bloke. He was a brilliant manager. I'm doing it now. He was great for England. It eventually went, once he got past all the turmoil and stuff, and he went on to have a brilliant career afterwards as well. He'd already had one previous to the England job. Turns up at Newcastle and is just brilliant again. And I mean, you can't do anything but just continually pay tribute to the bloke because he's just an absolute. I mean, legend doesn't do him good enough justice really, because he just absolutely just a pure legend.
Well, he saved us, mate. I did a little video about Bobby just before the game on Saturday, and I was getting emotional as well. Just when you start remembering what he was, what he did for the club, just the affection he had for the club, and some of the things that come to mind is his interviews, and even when he got the job, that little twinkle in his eye and stuff and everything else. And you hear the way the players spoke about him, how brilliant he was. And I think it's really underplayed in some quarters as to what Bobby did, because when he came in, we were screwed. Almost similar when Eddie Howe came in. we looked like we were heading down. We weren't together. We were completely, disorganized, a mess. Shearer wasn't scoring. There was talk about him leaving. Bobby come in and just galvanized all that and turned us from a bottom of the league side to Champions League team. Hello, what does that remind you of these days? So very, very similar in terms of that regard, and just a wonderful man, and obviously fondly remembered in the world of football. So it was an absolutely fitting display by War Flags. I think the only sad thing was, Mark, that it didn't stay up for the players coming out. I think a couple of people mentioned that it came down really quickly. I don't know whether we've had Thomas on the channel before. I don't know whether War Flags can shine any more light on that subject as to why it came down so quickly. I mean, the size of the thing, maybe in the stand it was in, possibly had to come down for security purposes or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's a shame that the players couldn't cap an eye on that, especially someone like Dan Burn and Stuart Longstaff seeing that, man. Do you know what I mean? It would have blown their socks off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, they'll obviously see the images and stuff, but to walk out with that up would have been something special. But I guess possibly a safety issue at that point once the players are coming out. I don't know, but it's it was fitting once again. Like I said, War Flags absolutely smashed it. They just continually do this. I'm dying to see what turns up at Wembley.
Oh, mate, honestly, some of the flags. I've seen some corkers and I've seen some shockers. That Geordie Shaw one, whoever got that one done, was fucking horrendous. Was it Amanda Staveley, that little disabled bloke when he was getting money at one point off every fucker? I can't remember what his name was now. Who else was it? There was Cheryl Cole was on there. Pearson was on there. You were like, who the fuck has done that flag? Horrendous, man.
It was an odd fight. There are some awful ones. There's some ones that sort of divide opinion. There's some ones that are shocking. There's some ones that are really good. I think there's just going to be all manner of stuff at Wembley this weekend. It'll be fascinating to see. But I'm dying to see what the club War Flags have kind of put together, because I know the club have put money towards this one, obviously with the sharp turnaround and stuff from the semi-final. So. Be really interesting to see what turns up in London at the weekend.
Absolutely. And when you remember you shouldn't have worn a red jumper for the podcast, no, Mark, this is not a Liverpool kit. This is just a red jumper.
Here's one that's flashed into my mind, and this is totally like an inside sort of thing, because if you didn't play for Marden Bridge back when we went to Marden Bridge, you wouldn't know. But can you remember the kit you wore for your first ever football match?
Yes, it was a Liverpool away kit, the candy
was
one, the yellow one.
Yeah.
And it was the tightest fucking thing I've ever put on in my life. It was like somebody spray painted on me. I was scared to breathe out, and that's even when I was little and skinny.
Oh, man.
So it was horrendous, mate. Yes, I do remember
freezing cold Saturday afternoon in Carlisle?
Possibly.
Playing. It must have been about -10. And then, as you play in a yellow candy advertised for the Liverpool shirt, playing for a football team from a school in Whitley Bay. It was just brilliant.
Dreadful.
Hilarious.
Absolutely dreadful, mate. Great. Oh, the old schoolboy memories, mate. Schoolboy memories. But yeah, it was a brilliant tribute. Obviously, we were looking forward to the game. That disappeared quite quickly. Let's get stuck into the game then. So obviously we started the game like a house on fire, Mark Reed, didn't we? Maxi was talking before the game. He was quite emotional, Maxi, because obviously he knew Christian Atsu. He was talking very highly of obviously just what a wonderful bloke Christian Atsu was and how welcoming he was for ASM as a player and everything else. And I think ASM had that kind of that fire in his belly to put on a performance. Maybe it was to honor Christian. Maybe it was just he was channeling his emotions in that way. But ASM was superb on Saturday. He looked as good as he's been in all season, maybe since that City game. He was electric. He was everywhere. He was stretching Liverpool left, right, and centre. Even earlier on, he squares it into Miggy. Miggy's got to do better there for me, Mark. In that first opportunity when we're on top, he's got to put that away.
I do, but that hand from Alisson, that's a goal. And I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but that game, Alisson had a blinder.
He did. He was their man of the match.
Started from that. He was exceptional.
Yeah, Carragher said that too. To be fair to Carragher in the commentary, Carragher gets a lot of shit sometimes, but he was very, very honest. I thought about how poor Liverpool were, but the bit that gets me, Mark, Liverpool was so poor in that game, and then let's just get into it, mate. What is it? 12 minutes of utter fucking madness from the first goal to Nick Pope. So the first goal. For me, there's a multitude of errors on this goal, right? I know you'll give your take in a second, but the multitude of errors on the goal. The first one, nobody closes down Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's got the freedom of Newcastle to hit a ball right through the middle, and I don't know who you think's at fault here. I think it's possibly Cher and Trippier. I don't know which one you want to portion more blame to, but it's right through the middle, and Núñez gets a chance to. The first touch is good. The second touch is very fortunate. He gets a chance to almost accidentally control it. Neither one of them are on the same page. And I don't want to run them down too much because they've been unbelievable for us. Best defence in the Premier League. But, mate, what was going on with that goal? They were nowhere, the two of them.
It was awful. I think Trippier's got one eye on the player coming sort of from the left-hand side. I don't know if that's Robertson coming up high. But he has to be talking to Cher. Or Cher has to be listening. Cher had no idea who was behind him. Trippier decides to sort of veer to the Liverpool's left-hand side, so towards his right, which gives even more of a gap for Núñez. I think it's split between the two of them in terms of blame in that regard because they've got to work together. I'm being a bit too harsh. I also have lay a little bit of this at Pope's door as well, because if you watch Pope's movement, Nick Pope doesn't try and close down. At the point in which Núñez starts to control the ball, Pope's gone too far to the right, and he gets himself back left. Now at that point, I would scream that basically he has to close down the angle, because if he gets closer, he can't score, because he can't unless he manages to get it through Pope, which is less likely if he cuts down that distance. It's sort of a mistake then from all three of them, but I think
I agree with John there, Mark. I agree with John there. I think Trips has put his hand up, wanting the handball or whatever. He's not playing the whistle there.
Exactly right, and I think this becomes more of a feature of the fact that VAR's involved and players do just let it go on and want it reviewed. But when you look at the replay, the ball bounced away from his hand. So it's just one of those frustrating moments where I think something like this was always going to happen. There was always going to be the point where a mistake would get made and a goal would get scored. And unfortunately for Newcastle, it just happened to be that it all happened within the space of 7 minutes, and you get two at once, and it was just. I mean that 12, like you said, 12-minute spell. When you consider how well Newcastle had started the game and could have been ahead, to then go 2 down within 17 minutes at the start of the game, it's just mind-boggling. You thought, well, what on earth is going on? Because they made Newcastle's defence, to be fair, and I'm not saying that they're going to be like this going forward, anything like that, but for that 7-minute spell, they made Newcastle's defence look like Steve Bruce's Newcastle defence because they were all over the shop. They got it back.
That is strong.
But they were absolutely dreadful for that little spell. And Liverpool took full advantage. It was an absolute nightmare. It was just
a nightmare, Lee.
I've never, like I say, I mean, we've not seen the like of it under Eddie Howe since he started. There've been odd moments, but nothing like this.
Yeah.
And it was just, and part of me thinks it's nerves heading into the cup final week, so they're all on edge. We're not wanting to get sent off. Irony.
We'll get to
There's a bit of emotion running through because of the Bobby tribute, because of Christian Atsu, because a lot of those players will either played with or been in and around teams that have played against him, so know him. So I think there's possibly a little bit of that as well, and it sort of bubbled over. So the fast start was evident. It was quite an emotional fast start, and everybody wanted to press, everybody wanted to get involved. I thought the first part of the game, you watched Elliot Anderson was pressing really high, pressing really well. And I thought that's great to see. It's great to see him getting it that sort of level of effort in really early on. We'll never know how he would have done for the rest of the game. But everybody seemed on the money, and then it was just that bang, and then it was deflated.
Fell asleep.
Yeah, and then 7 minutes later, it happens again. The wind gets knocked out of everybody's sails. Then Pope makes the mistake of his career.
Hang fire. We'll get onto Pope in a second. Hang on. You're getting excited because you go to a goalkeeper here. You go to a goalkeeper here. You're going to criticise him here. But you hang on for a minute. So the second goal comes in, and I think you said this to me. You messaged me straight away. And the second goal again is terrible, but the straight through is again. But there's one key factor in this goal. Any team could concede this goal. When you have a world-class player like Mo Salah who can hit a pass like that, he'll take out your entire defence in one pass. And you were straight on the message to me, and you said, I mean, fair play to Gakpo. He makes the run. Trippier is asleep. He's not followed Gakpo, in my opinion. And I think as well that the young boy, I can never pronounce his name, the young boy who plays in midfield for Liverpool, the 18-year-old. You know his name. What is his name? You can't pronounce it either. Look at your face. So number 43. That's it, number 43. So he controlled the midfield. He was brilliant. Had Bruno been there, as a few people talked about Bruno in the comments, had Bruno been there, he wouldn't have had that time and space. So I think that would have changed the dynamic of the game anyway. But that pass from Salah, Mark, to Gakpo, that is a killer ball, man. That's a world-class pass by a world-class footballer.
You've hit the nail on the head there. That is a world-class goal. That pass that just takes out the entire defence is a world-class ball. And that will have taken out any defence in the world. There is not a single defence that won't have conceded that gap for that ball over the top. And if Cody Gakpo makes that run 99 times out of 100 again, he probably doesn't get that ball played to him, but because it's Salah and the angle that it's played, it was just perfect. And you could argue, has Trippier fallen asleep at that point with that ball? I just think it's sensational. It's one of those where you can see that any other time, and you just hold your hands up and go, yeah, that was brilliant. But I think because it came so quickly off the back of the first mix-up or the first mistake, you go, well, Is it another mistake? I just think it's a piece of brilliance.
And again, I'm sure he could have done it regardless of who was playing. But if there's a Willock there, if there's a Bruno there, do they press him? Do they get in his face so he can't hit that pass? It's them questions you start asking yourself when they're not there, and you think, with their energy and their pressing, would they have got in Salah's face to stop him hitting that ball? Would they have got in Trent Alexander-Arnold's face to stop him hitting that ball? Especially Willock, because Willock has pressed relentlessly since he's been in this team.
But look, they've done it to Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Very true. Very true.
And everybody else. So look, it's a one-off. Let's hope.
Yeah.
It was a horrible moment for the first goal. It was a brilliant ball for the second. It's one of those games.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the bit you really want to talk about, right? So so breathe. So you're going to be like me. You're just going to talk for about 4 minutes without breath here. So we get a free kick, and it has to be said, and it really goes understated because he got hooked off after this. But a brilliant bit of skill by Anderson. Great ball control, quick feet. He wins the free kick, gets nailed by Fabinho, I think it is. Trippier hits in a free kick. Terrible pass, really. Terrible cross. Alisson picks it up again. It's a ball straight through the middle. We're not paying attention. We're not picking anybody up. The ball goes over. Longstaff sprinting back. Trippier sprinting back. Nick Pope had come out earlier on in the game, and he'd headed the ball out, and he looked a little bit shaky doing that. Now, I put it down to just, feeding his way into the game. He comes out this time, and good fucking God, Mark, what on earth is he thinking about? So this is Nick Pope, if anyone didn't see it, which obviously all did. He comes out, he tries to head the ball. He completely misses a header. He then flops to the floor, and he seemingly forgets that he's 45 yards out of his goal and puts his hands on the ball. And then he gets his hands off the ball, tries to kick it out of play. And weirdly enough, right at the end of it, he could have fucking injured Kieran Trippier because he fouled him as well. So, mate, talk me through what's going through the goalkeeper's mind here, Mark, because I cannot get my head around this at all.
Wow. Yeah. There's no defense to it. He's had a rush of blood. I don't know whether he's been a little bit up because of the first one, and he got away with that a little bit. Why on earth he's trying to head the ball when it's 2 feet off the floor, I've no idea. If he runs into the ball bounces away, and there's nobody within within sight of getting onto it. He only ends up going towards Salah, and he only has that instinct to go and grab the ball because of the way that he's gone to try and head the ball.
Yeah, he's missed it. He's completely misjudged the flight of the ball.
He has to be more aware. He has to. I know what you're saying, Ian. I know you're saying it's instinct to go and grab the ball, but he has to know that he's 45 yards out of goal.
Got you, man.
I'll be honest, I've done it myself at that point, and you do grab for it because you think, if I don't, the striker's getting it and I've conceded. But you'd rather concede the goal than end up down to 10 men, and that's the way you've got it. If you go back to Kieran Clark Kieran Clark is possibly the genesis for everything that's been good at Newcastle, hasn't he?
For Julian, yeah.
So if Kieran
he's
Clark,
the Infinity Stone.
if he doesn't, was it Timo Pukki that he fouled? If he doesn't foul him, he stays on the pitch, and that result might be different, etc., etc. But you have to play, I guess, the percentage game of that goal. And goal is better than being down to 10 men. It's an absolute rush of blood to the head. He's obviously just panicked with the ball because he's made an absolute mess of the first attempt. To then try and stop it running through to Salah to stop him getting the second goal, and that's it. That's also right. And then you're right, when he goes to clear and nearly takes out Kieran Trippier too. So, oh my God, what are you doing? And at that point, he's completely lost the plot.
Could you imagine he actually snapped Kieran Trippier's leg as well? That would have been up there with Jonathan Woodgate's Real Madrid. That would have been the worst collection of 10 minutes of Pope's entire career. Jack's mentioned this. He is rushing out of his box quite a lot, and Jack's not sure why. And Shez is saying that he's coming out of his box. He thinks, he's trying to be a little bit like a European sweeper keeper, and maybe he's just not that coordinated to be that way. I mean, he has been class, to be fair, as Ian rightly says. He saved us so many points, and we're not getting on to him or nothing like that. We're not digging him out, but he has had the worst 5 minutes of his whole career there. And he knows it. You can see by his face. He knows it. Longstaff said it after the game. He said, walking in the dressing room, he just looked absolutely crestfallen. And he's normally always smiling. He's normally always bubbly and that. And Longstaff said to see his face was devastating. But that is just, I mean, it caused more carnage than your cat, which is just behind you causing it right now. It caused more carnage to the game, than anything I've ever seen. The weirdest thing was in that moment, Mark, right? All the different things he could have done. He could have tried to clear it with his feet. He could have even pulled Salah's leg over and got a yellow card instead of a red, because Longstaff's coming in behind him.
I still think he would have got a red at that point.
You still think he would have got a red if he pulled his leg away?
Because Trippier was, even though Trippier was coming round, I don't think, or Longstaff was coming round, I don't think he was close enough to. I still think he probably goes for that. No. But look, I just think he's misjudged it. He's completely messed up. I swear to God, if there weren't broken stuff in that training room afterwards, I would be surprised, because I would have launched the place at that point.
He'd have absolutely you ruined it. Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you, buddy. Lee's, I think he will feel like he'll get a medal. He will get a medal if he wins, I think, Lee, because he's played that many games. I mean, let's get it right. Without Nick Pope saving all the penalties in the earlier rounds, we wouldn't even be in the final. You know what I mean? So you've got to give it to him. But it does throw open this total weird, batshit crazy narrative, which we'll come on to in a minute, about the goalkeepers. This week we're going to be talking about the final all week, guys. We've got the lads coming on evermore with me and Mark on Wednesdays, all final talk. Me and Mark are going to do a bit more of the detailed talk and tactics type show, hopefully on a Thursday, Mark, aren't we? About, the key men, and where the game might be won on Sunday. But looking just at the game before we talk about the keepers, obviously ASM looked bright. He looked interested. He looked in the mood. Very good. That bodes very well for Sunday, Mark, doesn't it? Because if you get that ASM at Wembley, that ASM can win us the game, can't he?
Wide open pitch. It's a huge pitch at Wembley. I know that's a cliche. He has so much more room to use on that Wembley pitch. I just think it's sort of set up for him to play a massive role, and I thought he was excellent.
Sensational. He hits the ball, doesn't he, shortly after? Because when we go down to 10 men, we actually play better. We're a better team.
Yeah, it's funny, and I showed you this before. This is a bit bright, so bear with it. But it is sort of the XG story of the game. And you can see the Newcastle's bright start as the grey line, and then obviously Liverpool take over, but Newcastle just chip away. And then within the last sort of 10 minutes of the game, they actually sort of go ahead in terms of XG. And it's only the last sort of couple of shots of the game where Liverpool sort of get, I think it's the Jota chance at the end. It's header that takes them back above them.
Cracking header that though as well, to be fair, though. What a header that was.
It was. Newcastle were in that game right up until the end, and they could probably have come away with a point in the end because they had enough chances to do it. It was said before, there's a reason why Alisson's man of the match, really, because he was exceptional. And just to kind of touch on Nick Pope, he's made a mistake, and you said before, we're not getting at him because goalkeepers do this. Alisson, Ederson, Manuel Neuer. I mean, look how many times Manuel Neuer's done things like that. And he's absolutely royally fucked up, coming 40 yards out of his goal to clear a ball that he's never going to win. It happens. Goalkeepers do this. They'll make mistakes. It's part of it's the nature of the beast, isn't it? So you can go from having a day like Nick Pope, and at the other end you're having a day like Alisson, who was just brilliant and saves Liverpool really, because generally I think they were, like you said before, they were really poor. And considering they're playing against 10 men for 78 minutes, they were awful. Yes, they created chances, and they created more chances because there were gaps that Newcastle were leaving them, because Newcastle went, fuck it, we're going to go for it. Yeah. And could have, I don't think anyone could have argued had they come away with a point. It's just they're not able to take the chances.
Again. To be honest, it's all ifs and buts and coconuts, isn't it? But if Pope doesn't get sent off, if Bruno isn't suspended, if Willock's fit, if Wilson's fit, I think we win that game, and we win it comfortably because Liverpool were there for the taking. They had two chances and they were clinical with those chances. And we gifted them the chances, and they just took them, and we couldn't take ours, which is a reoccurring trend. We saw on Twitter from our mate Kev at StatBomb, that we haven't been as clinical since we've come back from the World Cup, from the XG mark, have we? This is something that has been happening for well over a month now. And you know, I had a bit of a rant on our Twitter the other day. I've listened to, you know, some of the fan-led media and stuff like that. And it's like the Lego movie. Everything is awesome, right? It's okay to say things aren't as good as they were. It's okay to say that we're going into a final in possibly in not an ideal situation that we would have been 3 or 4 months ago. We are a bit off form. Our shooting's gone a bit awry. We've got injuries to key players and stuff like that. Obviously now suspensions to key players. Manchester United are in really good form. It's okay to be a little bit concerned. It doesn't mean you're negative or a Mackham. You know, it's okay to be a little bit concerned, but it's one game, Mark, isn't it? It's one game. And a final, I mean, look at Wigan a few years back against City. One game, you can form can go out the window and you can win that one game, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Kev before. It's Kev Lawson, if you didn't pick up on it. And he was absolutely right. He put, since the 26th of December, Newcastle scored 5 from 12.59 XG. It's the wrong way around.
Good day, Dave.
It can't, as he put, it can't and won't last. And it won't. At some point, it'll start to hit the back of the net again. But on your point, look, you're allowed an opinion. If you don't think things are going well, and clearly they're not going very well, they're not horrendous, but you're not scoring goals. You're now conceding a couple of goals, whereas you weren't before. It's not an open season on Newcastle's defence by any stretch of the imagination. But there are signs that they're creaking. The squad's not big enough, and we know they're ahead of schedule. So we're not going to have a go at Eddie Howe or anything like that. My God, that would be suicide. But things haven't been right. They're not going as well as they were, and you can say that. You're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to say, yeah, things aren't great. They're better than they were a year and a half ago, but right now they're not very good. You know, you've come off the back of a run of games where it was one win in 5?
I think so. Yeah. Does it 1 win in 7?
1 win in 6 in the league. Look, it's not been brilliant. Yes, you can always argue, yes, they're not losing. Yes, they're still picking up points. And things will turn around. But right at this moment, you're allowed to have an opinion and say what you feel and go, yes, I don't think things are quite right. I don't think it's broken. I don't think it's going to stay like this, but I can say it, and I can say it, and you should be able to say it without the fear of some other moron turning around and saying you're not a fan, you don't believe in the club anymore. You know you shouldn't be allowed to fuck off. It's a game of opinions. You're allowed to do it.
Exactly.
I can say that it's not working, but I can equally say when it does go well, great, it's going well. Do you know what I mean? You're allowed to. You can say this.
Well, exactly. You're totally right. Ian agrees with you as well that we aren't our best. And if anyone asked Eddie if he was happy, he probably wouldn't be over the moon either. This is the thing. Eddie Howe's a big boy. Eddie Howe isn't expecting all the fans to go, oh, yeah, we're the best thing, you know, since sliced bread and everything else. And da-da-da-da-da. You're rightly, Eddie has done more, you know, in one season than other managers have done in 10 years. Nobody's disputing that. But, you know, this isn't an ideal situation going into this game. We'd much rather be the Newcastle of 4 or 5 months ago going at this game, where we were probably going to be the favourites. Jules is bang on the money. Having an opinion is everyone's right. Whether we agree or disagree, do it respectfully, discuss it like adults. Totally right, Jules. Couldn't agree more. You know, some of the stuff that I read, some of the stuff I heard, you know, people having sly pot shots of people saying, "Oh, well, or you're upset with this Newcastle, are you? This Newcastle that's in the first final for 25 years." It's not a question of being upset. It's a question of being a bit disappointed that we're not kicking on and we're not converting chances and everything. Just engage with people. Don't just, you know, throw shit in their eye and say you're not a fan and everything else. But listen, you know, Sunday's a huge game for all of us, whether you're supporting across in Australia like Dave is in the comments, or whether you're at Wembley, you know, 6 or 7 pints in. We're all gasping for this game and we all want to win this game, you know, because we all want that trophy drought to be ended. We're all Newcastle fans at the end of the day. So, you know, whether you're concerned or not, we all want the same thing, a successful Newcastle United. So let's just get on board with each other. Just a point on Isak, Mark. Lee's mentioned there, Isak and Maxi. A couple of people have said that. Isak got a bit of a rough ride off Craig Hope. I really like what Craig Hope's doing on YouTube. If you haven't checked him out, guys, watch it. I think Craig's really, really good. But he went in a bit heavy on Isak. He said he thought Isak looked a bit ropey, a bit out of sorts. Now, I think he's still trying to find that sharpness. I think there was one time when I think it might have been Trips that played him in, and he made that run, and he was just half a second behind, and you could see him going, fuck, like, because he knows he's not quite sharp to where he wants to be. Obviously, him and Wilson are both kind of in the same situation. But Isak and ASM seem to link up really, really well. You know, we're going to talk about our lineups for Wembley on Wednesday, guys. So come and check it out. But do you think Isak's got a chance to start in this final, mate? Or do you think Wilson's going to come back in because he was rested for the weekend and come back for 20 minutes?
I mean, not to give away what we'll talk about on Wednesday, but I think Wilson starts.
I think Wilson starts too, personally. Yeah, I think Howe completely trusts him. So
yeah, I think it's this pretty much it's the side that got you to the final. It will be the tried and tested lineup, and it will be going at it all guns blazing. Players have, you know, they'll have put a lot of effort into Saturday's game. They've got a week off. Obviously, Wilson didn't play an awful lot, so he'll come back a little bit fresher. I thought, funny enough, I thought Isak started the game really well. I think he did look sharp. But again, like I think with everything else, I think it just obviously lost the ability to kind of get too much in the game because there was a man less. He wasn't able to get and sort of into it, and I think Maxi then took over and sort of ran the attacking show almost, and everything went through St. Maximum, and we've seen it before when he starts to dictate the game. That's what happens, and I think that's probably why I think Maxi's played himself into Sunday by that performance. Definitely.
I think Man United will be scared of him, Mark. Man United will be scared of him because when he's at it, he's a nightmare to deal with. He's ran them ragged before. And if he's at it and he's up for it, and I think the bigger the game, the better the ASM. And this is a massive game, and I think ASM will step up for this game. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, I think that sort of ability to cut in from that left. I think if they're going to, will it be Dallo or Wan-Bissaka that play on the right?
Probably Wan-Bissaka with his pace, I think.
But I think even then, you know, if he's cutting across to come inside and trying to pull Wan-Bissaka with him, it just creates more problems. And then if you can get the likes of Joe Linton to sort of move into that gap on the left, it just hopefully opens those avenues for other players. And look, I think he was absolutely brilliant. So I think he takes that into the weekend. But yeah, we'll go back. I agree with that. I think I think he's looks in sort of better form. I just think, yeah, if Wilson's fit, Wilson starts.
I mean, that's mouth-watering by Tommy there, mind you. I'd love to see them three up front. Fucking hell, that would scare the shit out of any team. That would, you know, if them three run at you with pace. But I do think Miggy will be in there just for his energy and everything else. I really do think that, as Tucoin says there, they'll be eating up space on that big pitch with Miggy's energy. My God, I think he could be an absolute nightmare for Manchester United to deal with on that day. Got to put this comment from Jules. I love that comment, Jules. Yeah, Mark's getting savage. Mark's getting savage by his cat. There, he's not surprised by Craig Hope's walks. He's getting attacked by his cat. But I do love his walks, but yeah, it makes me think I'm getting my steps in. But I've often thought about doing it myself. I think Mark would beat me to death with the selfie stick, so I better not do it. To be fair, so, I'll let that one go.
I'm going to buy you one.
I was going to say, I might beat you to death with selfie stick, so you return the favour as well. But we've got a comment there from Jack saying he's still trying Miggy on the left, just ping crosses in as much as he can. He does very little on the right, and he isn't getting much from cutting back in anymore. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think this. Sorry, Mark, go on.
No, I was going to say, I've said that before in our chat as well. I'd like to see a little bit more variety. And I think that three forward has worked so well. I'd like to see them swap every now and again, just to give the defence another look, because it just keeps them on their toes a little bit more. And if you've got a ball in from Miggy or from the right, you've got an ASM or a Willock going forward, and I just think it gives them another issue to deal with. I'm not saying do it for 20, 30, 40 minutes or something, but every now and again, just to swap over for 10 or 15 minutes, just to give another angle to the to the attack. Sometimes it can get very, very predictable. But I mean, it's worked so well so far. You're loath to change it, but while things haven't quite clicked, just trying something a little bit different may just be the one that unlocks the door.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least we've got options is the best thing, I think. We've got options to say that, we can change things off the bench. Maybe I think Willock might be back at least for a sub as well. And his energy could really cause people trouble as well if the game's tight in the last 10, 15 minutes. So just Jules said, I don't want to be that person who says first-time viewer, but it's so refreshing to listen to a balanced, calm and objective discussion in our club. We need to keep perspective and respect. Oh, that's brilliant, Jules. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, mate.
So yeah, I suppose, moving on to the last section is all about the keepers, mate. So you're probably the best person to talk to about this, Mark, being the keeper that you are. So it looks like Karius, who hasn't played a competitive game for since 2018, is very possibly going to be in between the sticks at Wembley. I mean, is this going to be a redemption story for Karius, mate? People are saying he will carry us over the line. Everybody else is using these kind of phrases. So, what do you think, mate? I mean, at one point we were absolutely devastated that we signed this bloke, and now he's the second coming of Christ. So, what do you think, mate?
I think I mean, doing a disservice. He has played since 2018, hasn't he? Because he last played.
Played in Saudi
2 years ago.
He
played for Union. Was it Union Berlin? He played for Union Berlin in the Bundesliga, but that was February 2021. So he's gone a couple of years without playing a competitive game. Look, it's going to be. I was going to say the biggest game of his life. It's not, obviously, because of the Champions League final, but what a redemption story. If he comes in and has the game of his life, I think of the two, he would be the one that starts. I mean, it's almost a masterstroke having re-signed him. Given what's happened, and we've sort of had the issue with the transfer window and people not coming in, but keeping him on is almost the masterstroke, because you don't see things like this coming, but when they do, you need that player in place. And probably, thank God, it's him, I guess, or Gillespie, rather than probably a 16, 17-year-old coming in for a debut in a cup final, and that would be scary.
Just look at Jack's comment there. Who would play in the movie? I've got to go with Chris Helmsworth on that.
I was going to say it's got to be a Hemsworth.
Let's be honest, he's not a bad-looking bastard, is he? I mean, if all else fails, he could just smolder. He could just smolder at the ball, and then possibly it won't go in because he's really, really good-looking. In the words of Zoolander, mate.
Magnum.
Magnum. Yeah, there'll be a few people magnetized to Karius, I think, mate. But mind you, have you seen his missus as well? By the way, just a slight subject change. His missus is that Match of the Day presenter. Is it from Italy? What is she called? It was somebody put it on social media the other day. I'm going to find her name now. Someone will beat me in the comments here. But Karius's missus, is unbelievable, right? I need to honestly. I just need to find out who she is. Where is she? Yeah. So his girlfriend is Diletta Leotta, who's the girl. So everyone Google Diletta Leotta, which is Diletta Leotta. She's apparently the Match of the Day presenter, I think, for Italian football. And she is possibly more really, really good looking than he is, to be brutally honest with you. If Mark has just found the picture there. So, Chris, you are good. Mate, I did absolutely, mate.
It's a screensaver.
It's what I used to look like before I worked in sales. Shares. This is what working in sales does to you, mate. Ruins you. Don't ever do it, mate. Don't ever do it. Ask Ian in the comments. It kills you. It ruins you, mate. All the hair and everything else, man. But his missus ain't too bad either, to be fair to Carrie. So he is winning in life. So he might as well win the Carabao Cup Final as well, just to add that to the mix, mate. To be fair, but on a serious note, he's an experienced goalkeeper, 29 years of age. He's played in big games. He's got the big game experience.
He's no mug.
Yeah, I mean, fucking hell. I mean, I'd certainly have him over Gillespie. There's no doubt about that. I think I'd rather have Keith Gillespie in goal than fucking Mark Gillespie.
Didn't Keith Gillespie once play in goal?
Possibly.
Did he not cover somebody when they got sent off?
I don't know if it was for us. I know Beardsley did. Beardsley did. Watson did, didn't he? Watto played. Watto played, I'm sure. It's sorry, Ian's in the comments there. See, Ian's backing me up. It's not good for the looks. It really isn't. Ian looked like Brad Pitt when he first started as well. Just Google Carries' girlfriend. Davies already there. I'm just waiting for Davey to drop out the comments. Are you Googling his girlfriend, mate? Are you taking ages to
I'm not. I'm trying to find whether I can find Keith Gillespie played in goal. I am getting
while getting attacked by your cat. Absolutely. Just like Carius, the pussies can't leave him alone. Absolutely. I'm only joking. So, what's it saying here? So Jules is saying we get Gary and they get her. Bloody BBC. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
It's where your TV license goes.
Absolutely. How's the bacon? Is it Sue Barker? Do you mean Carrius in the jacket? It does look very similar to Sue Barker. I must admit. But on a serious note, though, he's the most experienced keeper we've got.
Where did this go? Where did tonight go? It's gone off the rails.
We've gone off of one. It's my fault for raising Carrius's girlfriend. She does that to you. She's got that way about her. But I think just looking at it, obviously Darlow's away. On loan anyway, so he can't come back, can't be recalled.
Confirmed that he can't be recalled as well, yeah.
Can't be recalled. Dubravka obviously played for the fucking team we're playing against, and ironically enough, if we get beat, he gets a winner's medal, which is that is a pub quiz question waiting to happen, that is. It really is. I hope it doesn't happen, but it is a pub quiz question.
How does that work then? Does he get to go up afterwards? Do you know what I mean? Does he get his medal there and then on the day? Do they just post him one?
If he does, I want Joe Linton to go and stone cold stunner him on the fucking middle of the Wembley turf, just to batter him. I want Joe to wade in,
just get a bit of rock bottom action in the penalty area. Him
and Bruno could be like the Legion of Doom and just attack him and just batter the shit out of him in the middle of the Wembley centre circle, which I think he'd be well deserved if he did that. To be fair,
Joe Linton get the tables.
yeah, get the tables, Joe. I did see your comment to Coin. Yeah, I don't swing low, sweet Carrius. Oh my god, fucking cringe. But I just hope he has a good game. To be fair, but as Jax is there, if all else fails, we still have a better looking keeper than they do. Do you know what's funny? Friend of the show, Rid, put on Twitter. I think he said Carrius, Botman, Cher, and Wilson. He said, has there ever been a better looking five-a-side team than that in the world of football? He's not wrong, to be fair. He's absolutely not wrong. Jack's on the same page, mate. Joe Linton right out of nowhere. Love it. Absolutely love it. Clothesline him, says Lee. Absolutely. If Dubs goes and gets that winning medal, he is getting absolutely battered by somebody. He really is. That's just not on at all. That would be the biggest piece of shithousery I've ever seen in my life. If Dubravka gets that fucking medal for Man United, I will be spitting feathers, mate. Unbelievable. But we're obviously going to get stuck into all things final, guys. On the Wednesday, you've got me and Mark dying. PK are joining us. PK is not taking a no dickhead policy flag to Wembley, as far as we know, but he might tell us otherwise on Wednesday. So make sure you.
He's got his T-shirt though, hasn't he? He should be wearing the T-shirt. Oh.
I hope they're holding that in Sky. Mind you, just before we go off, right? I don't know if anyone's annoyed in the comments here. I might open up a can of worms, right? Did anybody see Sky's advertising of the final? Was Manchester United versus Newcastle? It's rubbed a few people the wrong way. So we aren't United apparently anymore. So according to Sky, what do you think of that, Mark? And what do you think in the comments about that, guys? Does that bother you, or are you happy just with the fact that we're Newcastle?
It's the same thing over and over again. It pissed me off when what's this Scottish fella called on Talks shite? Alan Brazil.
Not Coisty, because Coisty's
not Coisty. I love Coisty. Coisty's great.
Love Coisty.
But Alan Brazil, United, and it's Manchester United, and then he talks about Newcastle, and you just no. I'm sorry, but you call the team by their name, and I just. It just feels I've always said it, and I've done it myself at times, and I've forced myself to not say it. It's Manchester United or it's Newcastle United. It's not United just because they play in red. So I think Sky have dropped one there.
I love that, David.
Yeah.
Superb, mate.
I don't think
David,
that's a strong enough term for him, to be fair, but
no,
we'll leave
no.
that one out.
You could talk a lot about Brazil. Yeah, I think Jack's right. They're just baiting us for comments. Yeah, Sky are a little bit like that. They like to wind the Geordies up. So I think in their mind they just want to see the big, fat. Oh, sorry, you're not allowed to say that according to Roald Dahl books now. The enormous Newcastle fans with tattoos all over their stomachs, crying their eyes out. With NUFC and everything else. That's what they want to see, but we're not like that anymore. Half the kids in the crowd are about 23 with pigeon chest, man. Fucking, wake up, Sky. It's 2023, for God's sake. Gamer is saying, everyone's saying the Dubs has inside info. Remember, he wanted to go to them, and he could have give the inside to Eddie. It works both ways. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Jules is saying, given other news today, Sky need to wind their neck in. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah, they've had a shocker the day, haven't they? Goldstein is a wanker too. He's just too much of a Man United fan as old Goldstein. Lee saying, with that dog eating the Wembley tickets, just the ticket snapper. Yeah, I saw that. Was that? But where did that come from? Was that somebody? Was that Newcastle fans' tickets? Was that? I vaguely.
Oh, that's unfortunate, isn't it? I mean, Jesus, yeah, that's
your cat would do that. Your cat would eat your tickets.
Oh,
100%.
He's a bastard. He would have eaten them the first day they got here. He's just, yeah. That's unfortunate. I hope to God they can get those reissued. Christ Almighty, can you imagine?
Ouch, mate. It's not good. It's not good at all. But listen, obviously some of our Evermore crew are going to Wembley. We're buzzing for them. Mark and I aren't going, so we'll be watching it on the TV like a lot of the poor schmoes. But we're all excited for it. We can't wait to talk about it, Mark, can we? On Wednesday, me and the boys, we've got loads to talk about. We're going to look at our formations, look at our lineups, talk a little bit about how we think the game's going to go. What our gut feelings are for it. The form going into it. So make sure you tune in, guys. Wednesday at 7 p.m. And Mark and I might pop up for a bit more of an in-depth tactic talk that week as well. But I think we're pretty much done, Mark, over for this evening on what's going on. We're all ready to go, I think, mate.
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously, like you said, Wednesday is the one. Wednesday is the pre-final podcast.
The final countdown.
Then. The final. I'm not singing. But we'll get stuck into it a little bit more detail then. Come back and join us on Wednesday at 7. I will put the right date on the stream this time.
And if not, Ian will keep you right. Thank God for you, Ian. This fucking maniac.
Again, thank you, Ian. Tonight is all on Ian because Ian got it right and Mark got it wrong. And I've just told myself back in the third person. Oh God, it's all.
That's terrible. That's a serious wank move. But as I said at the start, guys, if you're new to the channel tonight, we've got a little bit off topic tonight. But if you're new to the channel tonight, make sure you click subscribe. We'd love to have you on board. Thanks to everybody who's been in the comments. Always helps the episode flow. Mark and I are off to go and Google Dilita Lotta. We'll catch you on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Make sure you tune in. Evermore, guys. Let's keep supporting that team of United, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, guys. See you later.
Trippier